Hi, and welcome to the Veterans Corner. My name is Chuck Woodin, and I'll be your host as usual. We have a special show here tonight, Healing HoofBeats. Two special guests. We have Renee Bouffard. I'm going to let you tell the audience. We can do that later, but she has so many hats that she wears that it would take a whole show to, but that's a good thing. That's a good thing. And we have Nicole Knoll. Nice to have you on the show.
Thank you for having us.
This one's easy. She's the equine specialist at Healing HoofBeats. Great to have you here. Actually, all kidding aside, if you can sit there and let the viewers know your titles.
Absolutely. So I am a licensed clinical social worker and a certified equine specialist.
Well, it's really great to have you both here on the show. We've had, actually, we had talked earlier about Shepherd's Meadows.
Yes.
And we've taped over 70 shows here. And in the beginning, we actually had Shepherd's Meadows here.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It was so long ago, I forgot who was here as a guest. I think one of them retired, and the other one's not there anymore, but it was a great show.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of stuff that we try to do on this show to get the word out to veterans that need assistance in whatever areas. You know, we've done a lot of shows on PTSD. We just had one with Dr. Jean Folks.
Yes.
Matter of fact, she's the one that gave me your card.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Yep. Like to start the show. Usually, if anybody served, I know you have served.
I have, yes.
What branch?
6 years in the Connecticut Army National Guard.
Yeah.
I served as an MP. I deployed to Afghanistan in 2012.
Oh.
I served as the lead mine roller driver for my unit, and I just got out last April.
Well, on behalf of the crew here at the Veterans Corner and the viewers, thank you very much for your service.
Thank you.
Let's jump into this. I know there's a lot to cover. We've done a lot of two-part shows lately, and this could very well be one of them. I know there's a lot of information to cover. Renee, who is Healing HoofBeats?
So Healing HoofBeats is my private practice, and I practice equine facilitated psychotherapy and animal assisted therapy. So I've been doing this for about 7 years on and off, and then in October of 16 I decided to kind of dive in full time, so I opened up Healing HoofBeats.
Big plunge.
Yes.
Yeah.
But she didn't say dive.
Yes.
You know, it's. I know you deal with veterans. Is there any other populations, or should I say groups, that you deal with other than veterans?
Yep. So we do individual, group, and family therapy, couples as well. We specialize in trauma, but it could be trauma of any kind for individuals who are children all the way through adulthood.
Yeah. It's, where are you guys located?
So Shepherd Meadows is actually one of the locations that we practice at.
Okay.
And then I also have another practice in Hartford through Ebony Horsewomen.
Okay. And for those that don't know where Shepherd's Meadows is, it's in Bristol, up on Chipman's Hill, right on Hill Street, right on the corner of Hill and
Marsh.
Marsh, that's it. Lifelong resident of Bristol. And
there you go.
I forgot which street that was. Right next to Chipney Golf Course. Now, Nicole, I've heard of Operation Warrior Horse. I don't know if the viewers have or not. Can you let them know what that is?
Well, I hope after this they'll remember that name.
There will be a test after this show.
Yes. I hope you're watching. So Operation Warrior Horse was sort of the name that we dubbed our Veterans Equine Facilitated Psychotherapy Program. It is a 10-week curriculum where veterans join us at Shepherd Meadows, and we help them through experiential therapy, where they work on making making genuine connections with the horses. Through those connections, they do work on their relationships and, how to be honest with themselves, who they are in the moment. And a lot of that work that they're able to do translates back into, their regular life. The work that we do is unmounted. So none of the veterans that come need to have any prior horse experience. A lot of the work that we do is on the ground. And from week to week, we sort of do different activities, trying to build and strengthen that relationship between the veteran and their horse, and the veteran and the other members of their group. We really hope that when they leave, they sort of have this new support network.
Yep.
Typically, our program has 4 to 5 veterans in each group. So at the end of the 10 weeks, we hope that they've made some friendships, and that can go on to be a support structure for them when they leave us.
I was going to ask you how many veterans that you normally, is it well received? I know we both know veterans,
Yes.
and I'm sure you do too, that they don't always want to come forward. So, programs like this, are they coming forward?
Yes, and I think that working with the horses is definitely kind of the draw.
Yeah.
So it's not everyone just sitting in a circle talking.
Yeah.
There's very minimal talking most of the time. It's really it's very much about you and your horse, or you and the group members, and experiencing all of that's going on right there in the moment and working through it. And kind of pushing through and feeling all that you're feeling, and knowing that you can get to the other side of that.
Yeah. I've actually sat in on some of the groups where, when you do have to sit there and talk, and that's what usually drives a lot of the veterans away.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's probably one of the most difficult parts of the traditional therapy that's out there for veterans right now. Talk therapy for me as a combat veteran, it's not appealing, to go back there and constantly be ripping off a scab.
Yeah.
I think it's a difficult way to heal and to facilitate healing. So our program really promotes being present focused. Let's be here in our bodies now, and let's work on today, and that'll make it better tomorrow. You know?
It's. Can you share with us, actually, this question for both of you? Can you share a little bit about your backgrounds? We heard a little bit about yours.
Yep.
What you'd like to share with the viewers?
Sure. So I've been in mental health for a little over 10 years now. I have been a practicing therapist for 7 years, and have done equine therapy, like I said, for 7 years as well. I specialize in working with people who've incurred trauma. So that is trauma of all kinds, with small children, adolescents, veterans, adults. When I had started Healing HoofBeats, I did a lot of training and understood the great benefits of horses for veterans, along with other populations. And that's where it really kind of spoke to me in wanting to create a curriculum. And it just so happened that Nicole and I met, and we created our curriculum together.
That's good. We've had a lot of people on the show dealing with, doctors and therapists about PTSD.
Yeah.
We had Joe Craigo from the Vet Center in the beginning years that we were doing the Veterans Corner.
Yeah.
He was on a number of times, Navy veteran. And then, like I said, just recently, Dr. Jean, which was actually the 2-part show. That was a great segment.
Nice.
Well, sort of what I think makes our program unique in comparison to, you're talking about other people in the field who are trying to work towards helping veterans heal with their PTSD. I think sort of what makes our curriculum unique is kind of the team that we have here. Unlike many other programs, we aren't just horse people, and we aren't just mental health people, and we aren't just a good intentioned veteran. Between the two of us, we sort of encompass all of those categories. So when the veterans come to join us, just as you and I know, the second you meet another veteran, there's already that camaraderie there.
There's a bond.
And if we come to a place where you are struggling and there's something in the moment where it's difficult and you do need a therapist, well, Renee is there. And it's it's a lot for the horses too. And if they come to a place where the horse is having some difficulty working through this, that's why both of us are here. So I think you sort of have to have this perfect storm, of facilitators and the right people in your group and the right horses for it to work.
It's you've got a lot of it's not just veterans.
Yeah.
I mean, first responders.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about that too.
Yeah.
You know, coming from the correctional background.
Yeah.
I mean, that's I mean, PTSD it's quite common.
It is.
In our business.
It is. And, you know, when you are a first responder or someone who is in the mental health field or working with those who have mental health or who have, you know, various difficulties, there's vicarious trauma that happens.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can incur trauma yourself based on the trauma that people that you're working with have incurred.
Yeah. And it's when you're a first responder, it's continuous.
Yeah. And we're always so mission focused,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and putting everyone else before ourselves.
Right.
And this sort of reminds us you got to take care of yourself too.
You do, and unfortunately, most of us start off in our younger years.
Yeah.
And you know, it can't happen to you, right? Of course not.
No, absolutely
It can't
not.
happen to you. And then, you know, 15, 20 years down the road, it's happened to them.
Yeah.
Right.
And you know, in the little time leading up to that, you know, they weren't taking care of themselves.
I think one of the hardest pieces too is when you're actually in the moment or when you're still in the profession.
Yeah.
The best time to start the healing process is right after something happens.
Yes.
But if you're a first responder, if you're a firefighter, if you're a police officer, if you're still enlisted, you're going to have to get back out there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
a lot of the times when we start to heal, things get a little bit worse for us before it gets better.
Yeah.
And we have a hard time sometimes learning how to compartmentalize or learning how to you know, kind of work through what's going on, put it away for the moment and still be able to go do our job. And that's really hard. And I think that that's one of the great things that the horses teach us, because if we're not present, they'll nudge us, they'll do something that kind of says, hey, we're
Wake up.
here.
Yeah.
Wake up.
Yeah, I'm here, focus on me.
Yeah.
And that really helps people learn how to work through and talk about or just kind of understand what happened while they're present, not in the past.
Which is so against the grain of
Yeah.
a combat veteran. You know, we're definitely a suck it up and drive on, you know, kind of people.
Right?
Exactly. You know, for those that, you know, served this country, and especially combat, you know, I mean, that's what we're trained.
Yeah.
You know, I was talking to a therapist not too long ago that was here, and you know, those of us that were in sports, you know, you learn at an early age. You know, you know, so what if your arm's broken? You
Yeah.
got to
Right.
keep
Keep
going.
going.
Drink water.
Yeah, have some water and get back in there.
Yep.
And then you get into, you know, the military, and you get, you know, whatever branch it may be, they all have their moments. And you just keep pushing through.
Yeah.
And you know, if it gets in your way, you knock it down.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing once you get into, you know, law enforcement or EMTs or firefighters. You get in there, you don't sit there and think about it, you just tackle the problem.
Yeah.
Right.
And that just compounds it.
Yep.
You know, it's I mean, being, like I said, coming from my background, I've seen it. I mean, every hour there was something going on.
Yeah.
I mean, you were just waiting for the next whatever it may be,
So you're
and you
in a
never
constant
knew.
state of hypervigilance.
Yeah. And EMTs.
Yeah.
That call goes out. They have no idea what they're going to be, you know, running into.
Right.
Combat.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what to tell you. You know, you have no idea what's around that corner.
Yeah, and I think that runs sort of parallel to coming back, you know, and then being a veteran being plunged into their civilian life.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, everything's topsy-turvy, you
Yeah.
know, and you don't have that network of people around you that you can rely on and hang your hat on, and you know no matter what, they're going to be there. You're in this world of strangers, and everyone seems very unreliable, and that is so frightening, you know?
Yeah.
You know, it's funny you should say that, because it's the same thing with the first responders.
Yeah.
I can tell you firsthand that one of the most stressful times is when you're approaching your retirement.
Yeah.
You know, you're so used to this and being on that constant adrenaline rush. I know with corrections, you know, there's a time frame of about 16, 18 months.
Yeah.
That, you know, if you make it past that, you're doing all right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you know, a a lot of folks that retire from that occupation, and law enforcement, and EMTs, all that, all first responders. It's a critical time because their body, their mind is going through a real, change.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just approaching that is stressful.
Yeah.
Well, and you spend so much time with a certain group of people, and they are your family, and they are your survival cohorts. They're the only way that you really know how to navigate things.
Yep.
And when you leave that, whether it's because you leave combat or you retire from whatever profession you're in, you're like, well, where'd everybody go? Now what do I do?
Yeah.
Because your life is so dependent upon all of your
Literally.
Yes, exactly. All of the other members of your team, that what do I do when I'm not with my team?
Yeah.
And that's a big struggle for people to really figure out and navigate how to work with.
Yeah. I mean, that's why you see a lot of the times where, we do a lot of lunches during the course of the year. You get together.
Yeah.
You've got people that retired 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And still to this day, we are the only ones that can really relate to it.
Yeah.
Not the spouses, even though they were there throughout the whole time.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Family and friends, it's the family that experienced everything with you. Combat war veterans,
Yeah.
first responders.
And that's sort of the hope of the program.
Yeah.
was just gonna say that.
Is that they're able to leave and have that sense of
Yeah.
family
Right.
again,
Yeah.
with these people that they shared past experiences together. Perhaps they weren't in the same unit or on the same deployment,
Yeah.
but they have a collective experience. And then them leaving this group, they have 10 weeks worth of struggling and healing that they
Yeah.
did all together, and that's such a powerful thing to share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing how the mind works.
Yes.
It can take a
Yes.
lot, but at the same time, it's pretty fragile.
Yeah.
But it can come back from quite a lot. There's so much more research now about what our brain does and can do than, what used to be. And we used to feel that once something happened and once we incurred trauma, our brain stopped.
Yeah.
And it stopped developing, and that is no longer the case. We can definitely continue to grow so long as we have reparative experiences. And that is a piece of what happens here, is that these veterans who come to us, or anyone who comes to us to work with the horses, they have reparative experiences in building relationships and having relationships, and that's what helps repair the brain connections so that they can move into a healthy life.
One thing I've heard a lot about is adrenaline. When you're on adrenaline 24/7 for long periods of time, you may come out of that environment, but that spigot is still on.
It is, yeah.
And it stays on, for years until you actually get out there and try to get some help.
Yeah, because that was the only way that you could survive.
Yeah.
You had to be hypervigilant. You had to constantly be on alert because something could happen just like that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the struggles that many say when they come back and reintegrate into civilian life, is that trigger, that hypervigilance is still always there.
Yeah.
And how do you bring it down? And, horses can mirror that quite fantastically because they are a prey animal. So lions and tigers and bears could be out there, and the horse needs to know that. So they can raise up to a very hypervigilant state to assess their situation, see what's going on. Once they assess that there's no threat, they go right back down to their baseline.
Yeah.
So when a veteran or someone who's incurred trauma and lives in that hypervigilant state sees that, it's that aha moment of, oh, I don't have to always stay in that state.
Yeah.
I can, and so the horse becomes an amazing teacher because they teach how to come back down from that hypervigilance.
Yeah, it's the problem, I think, and you've seen, we talked about earlier, is getting the veterans or first responders or anybody that needs help to come out and get it.
Yeah.
From folks like you.
Yeah.
That's what this show was designed for in the very beginning. There's so many organizations out there like yourself that no one really knows about.
Right.
Yeah.
In this show, we've gone we're on over 70 shows now.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it is now. We're closing on 80.
I think we're very fortunate, though, for this particular generation of combat veterans to be coming into a time when it's not so stigmatized to ask for help as it once were. You know what I mean? Like, we had Vietnam veterans. They've been suffering for 30, 40 years, and it's only now that they're able to diagnose those conditions, and it's only now that they're starting to seek help, and that is so unfortunate.
Yeah.
You know?
A long time to have to live with all of that.
Exactly.
Plus, the longer you wait, the longer it takes to recover.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
I've seen that. You know, it's, you know, I know somebody that I worked with that, you know, it just never wanted to seek help, and it just, when it came time, it's just a longer struggle.
Yeah.
Whereas, like you were saying earlier, the time is when it happens.
Yeah.
You know, to seek that help.
Yeah, so what happens is when we go through an event that our body and our brain considers traumatic, we create maladaptive ways to survive. So our survival instincts kick in and say, I need to do X, Y, and Z to survive. But once we're out of that traumatic event, if we don't figure out, or if we don't recognize that what we're doing might be maladaptive, and we continue down the road, I mean, it doesn't take too long for things to become a pattern, right?
Right, you can only hit the wall so many times.
Yeah.
Right.
Why isn't this working?
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, if you go 30, 40 years of doing something because it worked at one point, it's going to take that much longer to get it, you know, out of your system. Whereas if you've incurred the trauma and then you know, right away go to seek some help, it's going to take much less time for your brain to make those better connections and to...
You know, a lot of times, I mean, obviously it affects everyone in different ways. You know, and same people could be, the three of us could be in the same situation. You could have one symptom, you another symptom, and me another symptom.
And your perception of it.
Yeah.
You know, the same situation. It's so different from one person to another.
And then you'll have somebody over here that says it didn't affect me at all.
Yeah.
Right.
And you want to tell them to take a look in the mirror.
It all depends on our, you know, our resiliency, the relationships that we've had in our lives prior to the event, how we've been able to navigate different, you know, even simple events. It doesn't have to be a traumatic event, but the way that we've learned how to navigate different situations will have an impact on how we handle traumatic events.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I've actually
is.
tried to do some reading on some of these topics, and you know, you gotta really sit down and really look at it.
That's why we're here, to translate.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna put you on speed dial. You know, it's, you know, we had talked about possibly doing 2 shows.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, we're wrapping up the first show here.
Wow.
It's 25
We're too
minutes.
chatty is what it is.
Well, you know, it's nice. A lot of times we do these, and it's nice just to have just a roundtable discussion.
Yeah.
You know, we can sit there and ask questions. A lot of times that's what I do. But it's nice just to get into it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's more beneficial for the viewers.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And we can talk all day about this because we're so passionate about it. So.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I'm going to give you a second chance. I'd like to have you guys back. You don't really mean that. But yes, she does. Yes, she does.
All the enthusiasm.
But, you know, I'd like to have you guys back. You willing to come back?
Yeah, we'd love to come back.
You know, there's just, you know, this topic right here, for those that have been around veterans, I'm heavily involved, or was even more involved with the American Legion. I was local post commanders, and went on to be a district commander in Hartford County.
Oh, wow.
So you traveled around to all the American Legion posts, and you see, you know, you see all the veterans. And after being around, you can recognize, you know, the person that's sitting over in a corner, you know, not talking to anybody. Those are usually the ones that, you know, try to go over and say, hey, how you doing? I'm Chuck. But, you know, it doesn't always work. You got to develop that trust.
Yeah, exactly.
But, well, you know what? They're telling me in my ear that I've got about a minute left.
All right.
TikTok, Chuck.
So yeah, so we're going to have to wrap it up.
Okay.
I figured that would get a chuckle. But as the host of the show, as I've said many times, we hope that this show, along with all our other shows, are very informative and help our viewers. So, with that being said, that's about all the time we do have. We hope that you enjoyed the show and found it very informative. Like I said, a special thank you to our guest.
Yes.
We will see you again very soon, actually.
Yes.
My name is Chuck Woodin for the Veterans Corner. Thank you for watching and good night.